Yes, sir. Cowboys win 33-16. Welcome into our Week 11 post-game show here on How About Wow. It's Dawson and Newbear. Who were the best performers in this game? What does the win against the Raiders mean for the rest of the 2025 season and hopefully beyond for the Cowboys? And why did Pickens and Lamb get benched to start this game? Take it away, Jimmy.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about this Cowboys?
Yeah, buddy, I'm Gavin Dawson from The Fan. With me, as always, Newbear Lesniewski, all-academic SEC at Kentucky, always repping. Pickens and Lamb bench for the first series of the game. Hopefully, we're going to get some answers here as soon as Schotty takes the podium on his explanation. Leave a comment down below. Hit the like button if you want to see the Cowboys make a run to the playoffs and save this season. But there's two different ways of looking at this, buddy. Star players can do what they want. You got to make exceptions. Or the head coach that is tough and building his culture and accountability is doing it right and should be celebrated. Which of those two do you come out on with this story so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Expand.
So I got this YouTube TV, this ESPN bullshit is making me crazy. I'm in Team JJ Watt. I'm not downloading another app, and then I downloaded another app, and I hate everything because I came in on third down. And they were like, Pickens and Lamb weren't on the field. And I was like, oh my God, did they both get hurt on first and second down? Like, what the hell happened? Right. Like, and that's how I came into this thing. And I'm like screaming at my wife and the kids, banging in. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And it was happening so fast that Twitter couldn't even keep up with it. And then the memes start, and you go from, Last Dance to The Hangover and this stuff. And it's like, what is happening? Because then you're wondering how long might they be out. And look, man, I think there's a place to send a message while also being real about what's different today and these kids, if you will, and to say, hey, I'm going to put my foot down. And if you step out like this again, maybe it becomes a quarter, a half, a game, what have you. And now we're going to see how these dudes, stand in line, because this week, this shit ain't going to fly.
No, and this might have been the perfect opportunity against the Raiders, who are offensively challenged, basically to punt, to do a 3-and-out on the first series because you don't have your guys in order to send this message. We don't have the whole story right now. I don't think after Schotty's done talking, we're going to have the entire picture of everything, but I just trust the guy. And you see him hug and have fun here. This is what I love about Schotty. He can be tough like his dad, but he's going to let you know, bro, I still love you. And this is just all about the team. I'm just trying to get everybody on the same page here.
And what I liked about it, too, is Pickens was chirping in those first couple of series, like, get me the damn ball coming up. Let's go for it on fourth down. And Schotty was – he was right here. And Schotty was, like, refusing to meet that 1,000-yard glare. Short of telling him to piss off, he did, without meeting, him eye to eye. And then, oh, by the way – opening up everyone's eyes to the fact that the offense might be cleaner when it's run through 3 than 88 with the way that he called it for the rest of the night.
Yeah, that might make an appearance a little bit later on in the show when we look at some of our overreactions. What do you think about this win? CeeDee's been better this year, but you can just go back 19 months ago to the Green Bay game where he is throwing an absolute fit. I guess 22 months ago in the Green Bay game, he's throwing a fit. You're only down 1 touchdown, and he had taken himself out of the game and made it this tremendous negative energy and made it all about him in that one. This year, he shows up in training camp after getting paid. His buddy George Pickens is here, and he's been a terrific leader in every way that I could see, 9 games and through the bye. But in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking CeeDee is kind of the wide receiver archetype that thinks he's better than everybody, and maybe the rules don't apply to me. So I'm really glad, Schotty did this. As long as we don't find out it was something super duper minor and he is overreaching in the Department of Discipline, because when you said yes, what I thought about instantly was Jimmy Johnson. He had a separate rule for star players, and I want him to do that. But in year one, I really, really need him to try to build this culture and see how much of this vision he can press into life. Anybody can sacrifice to keep star players on the field, and I feel like 95% of pro coaches do this. The ones that say, hell no, we got a higher standard here. Now, maybe Belichick benching Malcolm Butler in the Super Bowl is too far, right? You don't want to. Yeah,
maybe.
Maybe, yes. You don't want to go that far. But, I think what we're going to find out is they got to Vegas and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens wanted to have more fun than everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, breaking curfew is breaking curfew, and hopefully it's a relatively innocuous thing, and it's something that, you obviously they lose this game, we're having a different conversation. You get out and you're winning big, and the two guys who we're putting the spotlight on go out and dominate. That's about as good as that story can go. So, to your point, even if they were 5 minutes late for curfew and he benched them, like you said, this is basically the perfect scenario where everyone can come out looking as good and then playing as clean as it needs to be, except for the very end of the game. And that's the part of this that I'm really interested to find out, what are the actual deets, because I'm a little bit frustrated with CeeDee and some of the ins and outs, quite literally getting in and out of that route. Flanoy really close with Nealand. They ran the little whip route and they get him the tutty, and you think maybe that's going to be the end of it, but then here come the Raiders. They're not going to lay down. So Dallas is still running offense, which, I texted you about halfway through the third quarter and said, sit everybody down. And right before the play where CeeDee, should have been a 40 burger, I'm taking words out of your mouth, who's that on? Did Dak short that, or did CeeDee lazy run the right? You know what I mean? If you're in the game, finish the game. Otherwise, just take a knee. Otherwise, hand it to Malik Davis. And what I'm going to be really interested in is the level of focus this week, given the fact that we were calling it opening week the best loss ever, right? That was the story that we were playing, and that was the line coming out of that. And then they've had of their 3 pretty bad losses, 2 of them borderline inexcusable. So going into this game, what did we say? The Raiders fucking suck. If you lose this game, then you fucking suck too. The Cowboys don't fucking suck.
No, they don't. And it is still a faint hope. Philadelphia's defense looks nasty coming up in week 12. That's going to be tough. Detroit and Kansas City look more beatable. Minnesota looks very beatable. Giants and Commanders are obviously beatable. So could you imagine only losing 2 of your remaining 7 games? I can absolutely see it right now, although I definitely wouldn't bet on it.
Well, we say this all the time. It's any given Sunday. It's where that whole thing comes from. Thank you, Oliver Stone, for putting it on video for all time. And, Al Pacino, Peace Within Inches, that wasn't a real fart. I was just making weird noises with my mouth because I almost don't know how to start with this relative to what we just came out of topically with CeeDee and GP and whatever happened in Vegas. I actually care less about that than I do A.J. Brown quitting on routes. I care less about that than Jalen Hurts finally being allowed to throw the ball and A.J. Brown getting singled and given up on a route when there's no safety over the top. I said all week, GP should have 20 targets. I think 18 was the real number, where if you come to the line of scrimmage, I don't care if you throw an 80-yard touchdown to CeeDee Lamb. If George Pickens is in single coverage and you don't throw the ball to him, it's a minus for Dak Prescott. And tonight, they didn't bleep around. Tonight, they got in and out of this offense first and foremost, primarily through George Pickens. And then they layered stuff. Dak threw some beautiful balls, in between levels to CeeDee. And then, you got Ferguson catching one. I think at one point there was you could bet on, who was going to be the 5th receiver to catch a touchdown and break the record, because several times Cowboys have had 4 guys catch a touchdown past one game. This was a night of nights. Quinnen Williams has a ton of juice left. And oh, by the way, everyone better because of that dude. And when you start breaking down how tonight went and you start thinking about how this week has to go, this is about as good as it gets.
It is. And Schotty's up at the podium now. One of his quotes so far, it's galvanized us forever, speaking on winning Monday Night Football and having the tribute to Marshawn Nealand. But other than that, I'm not seeing an explanation yet, so we'll check back here in a couple of minutes and jump into that. Let's jump right now into some player of the game stuff. George Pickens at 101 yards at the half. The cut for the 37-yard touchdown was just nasty. He got like 4 guys with one move. And then was it early third quarter or late second where he almost gets down into like a squat and then escapes to the sideline for like 8 extra yards. I think he's the most difficult to tackle pass catcher in the entire league. I mean, there's tight ends who are stronger, but nobody combines strength with elusiveness and speed and balance. Maybe that's the word, contact balance. Like if George Pickens was 3 inches shorter, I'd line him up at running back and think I have the next Le'Veon Bell. That's what I think of his skill set.
I interviewed, as a young professional, Sean Alexander, MVP, Sean Alexander, Seattle Seahawks, that huge record-setting season that he said he had. And he talked about how his father, when he was a little boy, talked about, guys like Gale Sayers, like that his father would have grown up watching, and said, the ones that make it look easy, like those are like what makes a player great. Like, how do you know a player is great? And the thing that's so special about George Pickens is even when he's doing really hard shit, he makes it look like me and you changing a light bulb.
Yes, dude. I mean, it was almost nonchalant the way that he threw that body feint, put his foot in the ground, and just slid back. I don't think he was running at more than 70 or 80%, but the Raiders were just totally had. And that's the situational awareness and the instincts that you just can't teach that I think puts George Pickens in the conversation for best receiver in the entire league right now, not just the Cowboys.
When you think about some of the testing stuff with him, right? Like going back to Georgia, I mean, he only air quotes ran 4.47 coming out of Georgia. But this is also a dude who's got like Wolverine blood coming back and making big plays in the national championship game after tearing his ACL, because he's a competitor and a winner, and he wanted to be out there with his brothers, and he did, and they got the job done. And that's also why he fell to the second round, because there were concerns that he rushed it, that nobody could come back that fast. Like, and then, the dude might be fork and light socket insane, right? He's got this like Jekyll and Hyde demeanor, and mercurial is the word that you always use, which we always come back to. But think about this: at 6'3", 200 pounds, if he's just cruising, knowing he can go 4.47, what's he actually playing at? And what's he doing in and out of cuts? Like you talked about the cut and cutting back and juking 4 dudes. Because he is able to glide like Ken Griffey Jr. tracking fly balls and going and climbing the wall like Spider-Man, he's able to see, 2 moves ahead. He knows when you go to plant to try to either use the sideline as the 12th defender or to force him out or to force him to cut back where your help is. He knows how you're going to be put on skates, and he knows how he's going to be able to take advantage of that.
Yes, it's prize fighter stuff. It's Olympic wrestler type stuff that he brings out to the football field better than anybody at his position. Here's Quinnen Williams running off the field after his first game for the Cowboys. Schotty said he's pretty good. We should keep him. And that's probably the understatement of the night from Schotty. But 1.5 sacks in his Cowboy debut, not including players who played for Dallas in the 87 player strike. Williams is the 4th Cowboy since 82 with at least 1.5 sacks in his first game with the Cowboys. The others were Eric Kendricks, Greg Hardy, and Leroy Glover. Many believe that Williams is the best defensive tackle the Cowboys have had since Glover. And Jerry Jones was quite happy here. I got him up in the suite. He cracked this smile just watching down from up in his suite there at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. An incredible move. We talked about in the Sunday show, could Quinnen Williams have a Micah Parsons-like impact on the defense, where you go from being one of the worst to actually a top 10 defense when this guy comes into the game? And it was just the Raiders, but the early returns on that are maybe not at Micah level, but pretty dang close.
Well, I mean, and what did we talk about? When you got to double him or otherwise pay extra attention to him, then you can't double everyone. So who else is going to get home? Is this where Osa finally gets one? He did. Is this where a guy like Kenneth Murray is playing cleaner? He did. He caused havoc all over the field tonight. Probably his best game of the year. Might not even be close I can't wait to see some of this film, because you get excited when balls get tipped. You get excited when plays go your way, and then you're like, okay, well, what really happened? And what do you see when you switch from the Tecmo Bowl view to the coach's eye in the sky and see what, these guys are really going through down in and down out. Down in and down out, 92 was all over your quarterback. Down in and down out, if he wasn't, then he freed up someone else to get home. And they were stunting. They were getting home with 4 and 5, like we talked about, being able to max the coverage lanes. And when you make Geno Smith think he's a chump.
Yeah, up next here, total chump, dude. You make him think, you put him under a little bit of pressure, you take away his space. He is one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL. You protect him, and he can play like a top 10 guy. Cowboys did not let that happen tonight, and that Raiders offensive line cooperated. Kalen Carson gave up the opening pass to Bowers, and I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go again. Right, this is going to be the Raiders' best offensive game of the year. They hold Bowers to 7 catches for 72 yards, and that's all pro numbers for a tight end. That's what you get. But I thought Kalen Carson was a big plus today. I think he had 2 PBUs, and he represents a desperate need for this Cowboys team there with the corners. Revel debuted as well. I'm not sure if he's ready still. I don't think he trusts his knee. Dak Prescott had the fumble, which he had no control over, but also Dak Prescott now 41 career games with 3+ touchdown passes. That breaks Tony Romo's franchise record for the most games in Cowboys history. And with the 4th, that's his 13th Cowboys game with 4+ touchdowns. That's the most in franchise history, tied for 7th most in an NFL player's first 10 seasons. It seemed like the game could have gone either way for Dak Prescott, but he ends up with a 138 passer rating, 25 of 33 for 268, 8.1 average.
He was back to playing on time and on target. He hit CeeDee a couple of times tonight where it was all anticipation, and he also put CeeDee in positions to be able to protect himself. He just missed on another one to Pickens, and I mean his worst throw of the night was the deep ball that Pickens ended up playing DB on, where I think I texted you something to the effect of overthrowing Pickens is it a misdemeanor? It's a very least a violent misdemeanor, if not a felony, right? Like you got to just put that ball up and let him go at least make a play on it. And you saw the one-hander where he came down just out of bounds. Like I think that's the thing that's so crazy about George Pickens is that sometimes it's the plays that don't count because it's out of bounds and there's nothing he could do about it, but it's still like he did what?
The interception save was amazing.
Right.
I have no idea how he tracked that ball and then jumped over the dude and got his hand in there to knock it away, but that should have been an interception for Dak.
Well, and so this is what we thought we were going to get week in and week out, were games like this where we were basically being greedy AF and complaining about the plays they left on the field on nights when Dak had a 145. On nights when GP and CeeDee combined for 210, on nights when Javonte sets a season high for carries, but we don't love the average, or, picking nits with somebody inside, not whiffing on a trap. And this is what it should look like when you play the teams you're supposed to be. Quite frankly, this is what it should have looked like against Arizona. This is what it should have looked like against Carolina. And the Bears game should have just looked like exactly like the Bengals game. And then if they lose 47-42, we can say, well, hey, we got reinforcements coming soon.
Yeah, that's right. It's Dawson and Newbear here. We got an answer, and it's kind of what I expected. Schotty saying just a couple of things missed that led to CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens not playing on the first series. Nothing beyond that. Could have been a practice. I mean, it was Marshawn Kneeland week. I hope they didn't miss any of that stuff that was crucial for the family and the bonding and the recovery. Like, who knows what they missed, but Schotty choosing not to share more information, that's probably not a surprise. More on Pickens here in just a second. I did think, Overshown and Wilson were just okay. They combined for 3 tackles, but it was really hard to evaluate them because the Raiders barely gave the ball to Ashton Genty. Like, what was it, 3 carries at the half or 2 carries for Genty at the half for 10 yards? It was really surprising.
Like 6 for 6 or something.
Yeah, I think I'd fire Chip Kelly.
Well, it ain't his fault, dude. That line it's the worst offensive line in the NFL.
Wow, he ended up with 6 carries for 7 yards. So he ran the ball 4 times for -3 yards in the second half. Yeah. And you probably got a good point there. Like, maybe Chip just knew we have no chance of running because of how bad our offensive line is. We're actually going to be a little bit better in pass protection. Cowboys end up with 4 sacks, by the way. Houston, Odigizua with the other one. Kenny Clark had a half sack. Quinnen Williams with 1.5. And then Ezeiruaku there, the rookie, adding something else to his resume, a TFL safety there on Genty to make me quite a bit more comfortable when you push that thing back to 17. I mean, the Raiders got to midfield and beyond 5 times in the first half. We mentioned Bowers. And then Trey Tucker, 4 catches for 47 yards. They always have Tyler Lockett, who's a deep ball threat. When it went from 15 to 17, that's when I breathed a sigh of relief and acknowledged that this thing was finally over. Any other players that you want to individually acknowledge?
Well, I realized I didn't say jack shit about Revel, and I think I texted you at one point, get him out of the game. Like you got him some leg, you got the legs, some reps, some game reps, game speed. It wasn't like Oxnard, where in Oxnard I was like, you can't put that dude even in full gear because he just didn't trust it. He'd kind of landed funny, and I think we learned that he had a setback, and that's why it's 14 months instead of some of these other guys you're seeing it, 8, 10, 12. But it's good, I think, if you can get him on a ramp and you can have a specific plan for him, because, Kalen Carson's playing out of his mind right now, and Kyer Elam's a traits guy, and Bland looks like I think Bland is fine as long as he's not matched up against a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, as long as he's not matched up against a 6'4", 220-pound guy, Bland is going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
And, you can mask a lot of other things when you're getting pressure and when Hooker and Dono are at least out there doing what they're supposed to do and being where they're supposed to be, playing downhill when they can, and these guys up front getting home with 4 and 5. And the thing you mentioned that just caught my ear real quick about Overshown was that I didn't necessarily think he looked great, but there were a couple of plays where he could have chosen to just kind of shoulder a guy and play leverage and force the play back inside, but he spun in place. I saw him trusting his knee, particularly after they fixed the brace. Yeah. So he feels like a dude that's more ready to play than Revel. And the Logan Wilson thing is going to get really interesting because we all know, and I've said this a couple of different times, a couple of different ways, he's like a marginally better athletic Jack Sanborn. He's also older. He's probably lost half a step. And so maybe some of that stuff that was true, when he was going through the Underwear Olympics, maybe they're the same guy. And it all comes down to like the green dot level stuff and comms and instincts and being able to make up for some of that. But it was clear that if he's asked to truly cover at all, he's going to be the same kind of problem, right? So, Genty left, and Genty does this from week to week because he just wasn't asked to catch the football at Boise State. And it's going to take him into next year with a full NFL offseason under his belt to become, I don't even want to say like Jahmyr Gibbs, but whether it's Josh Jacobs or whoever, Christian McCaffrey, he maybe never ascends to that, but it's going to take him time to even get there at a, above replacement level receiving back thing. And so I think a big part of what Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll are doing right now is putting him through the paces where he gets to experience all the things without being a 400 touch guy in a wasted season.
He might just be another Adrian Peterson, though, that you just don't want to throw the ball to. Like, if it's that bad early, you can hope to become sufficient on it, but we shall see with Ashton Genty. Up next here on How About Wow. And speaking of running backs, let's get into some overreactions. Jaden Blue inactive again, second straight game since the fumble. My overreaction here is I think everything that Glenn Stretch Smith said has to be true, plus some. Lazy lifestyle, practice habits.
What a wasted opportunity. This should have been a game where Jaden Blue had, 8 or 10 carries for 100 yards. Just like a splash touchdown run where everybody goes, this is the thing that takes us to the next level. We're good at running back. Re-sign Javonte or a guy just like him to be the hammer and let Jaden Blue go be the home run. This is an incredible missed opportunity for a young man that may be very well practicing his way out of the league.
But I did like Malik Davis, who is still just 26 years old. He's been around for a while. He's been in and out of favor with the Cowboys. He's been on and off the roster. It wasn't until late in Oxnard that he showed back up this year. But I thought, man, I don't even need to see Jaden Blue out there anymore because I kind of like this Malik Davis as a change of pace, smaller guy.
Yeah, Blue really just has that extra.
He does. Yeah, 4.28. Yeah.
Blue scores on the one on the goal line where Davis tried to bounce it and he kind of just gets run down like, come here, kid. Blue scores. Or at the very least, it's a foot race to the pylon. And that's what I'm saying about a missed opportunity is Schotty keeps talking about reps and accountability and consistency. And I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say I was the worst practice player of all time. I was fortunate to get in games and to be able to say, oh, hey, this kid can play a little bit, or at the very least, just not be absolute trash. And I'm including high school in that, like even going back over time where, and this was true for me in pretty much all sports. Like I'll go do most of the work and sweat and get it in and put some really bad stuff on tape. And then there's just like sometimes the light bulb goes out for guys that are much more athletically gifted than I am when the bright lights are on. And you want to be able to give someone the benefit of the doubt, because I sincerely doubt that George Pickens has always been a great pro practice player. Kirby Smart didn't let that stuff fly at Georgia, but in Pittsburgh, he's with Deontay Johnson, all day, every day, and all the shenanigans that happen here in Pittsburgh. And I mean, there's no way he was like Jerry Rice out there running slants 80 yards for extra conditioning on his path to greatness. And when you think about someone like Jaden Blue, who has, 4.2, and then the question mark is how low, right? Because the reports from the pro day were all over the place, but it was all, he ran 4.38 with a pulled groin at the combine. And so everything is in front of him except for the guys that he leaves behind in his effusive wake. And unfortunately, it looks like the burnt orange burner is going to have a hard time, getting off the ground at all, because they just have to trust a guy like Malik Davis who's putting stuff on tape day after day after day.
You never know when a guy's going to stop being a knucklehead and be like, holy crap, I'm messing things up, trying to be too cool, trying to be the guy that just is doing his own thing and says, you don't get me, like Johnny Manziel continues to do as he approaches 35 years old. Like there's some guys that never get over it. My hope is that this year is a wake-up call, and Jaden Blue is getting a big dose of what Schotty just gave Pickens and Lamb in a smaller dose. Speaking of those guys, back to the overreactions. George Pickens is the best wide receiver in football. If you're going to move on from one, it should be CeeDee Lamb. I would hope they can keep both those guys and not sacrifice any other spending on the roster to do it. But you know me, if you're going to say we only have this amount of money allotted, I need you to fix a lot of the spots on defense, maybe go sign a veteran right tackle and spend $15 million on a veteran wide receiver too to play with George Pickens. I'm trading CeeDee Lamb for a 1 and a 2, maybe 2 1s.
Speaking of spending money and learning lessons, how about Jamar Chase being a $500,000 lighter in the wallet after the shooting incident? That's crazy. Look, okay, so if we're really going to do this at the top, right, we said Mount Rushmore coming into the year was Chase, Jefferson, and Lamb, correct?
Yeah.
And then you're talking about big bruisers like Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua teaming up. You're talking about young risers like Malik Neighbors and, Garrett Wilson being tremendously underappreciated because of the quarterback play. But guys like Brian Thomas Jr., you're talking about Mike Evans, the ageless wonder. You're talking about
Brown and Brown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown and A.J. Brown. Cheetah, did he have any more? All right, so Cheetah got hurt. Chase, quarterback plus attitude. Jefferson, quarterback. Wilson, quarterback plus injury. Neighbors, injury. Adams and Nacua balling. Stafford might be MVP. Evans, injury. Father Time is undefeated. Streak is over. Brian Thomas Jr., dropsies times quarterback. Those two things are related. McLaurin, age, injury. DK Metcalf, not really a wide receiver 1, even though he's being paid to be on Mount Rushmore. They did not sign a wide receiver 2. System challenges. I mean, we're running out of names. I don't think you can honestly argue that George Pickens, based on what he proved when CeeDee Lamb was out and how good this offense looks being run through him with CeeDee Lamb playing second fiddle, which, I mean, he would be the alpha too, right? I mean, if they're co-ones, we talk about this buddy cop movie and the way that they've talked about it, and now they're getting in trouble and wearing ski masks together and literally like doing everything at the same pace. Maybe they take turns. Maybe next week after they, play rock, paper, scissors, CeeDee's the one with the larger target share, and, Pickens is out there with like a Randy Moss 3 for 130 and 2 type line. But when you talk about everything this young man can do, and going back to the, I think this is what I tried to tell you, what I tried to tell Cowboys Nation, what I tried to tell everyone, and what's finally coming out about Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, and the way they dictate offense and the way that they live in their fears and they hide from taking chances and seizing opportunities with that kind of talent. When Mason Rudolph stepped in and they actually ran more than 0-1-9, when he actually ran slants and was able to catch them and go like he did tonight, and put dudes on skates and then just ice rink into the end zone, what you see is a dude who, when he's tuned in, can do things that no one on this planet can do.
Yeah, and Lamb can do a few things a little bit better than Pickens, but the deep ball, the taking away what should be interceptions, and then the yak ability of George Pickens, like Lamb just can't compare to those three things. So I would just challenge the Cowboys to really think long and hard about this and say, who is the best player? If we're not going to keep both of them, you sign George Pickens to the long-term deal and you let CeeDee Lamb go, because what we're seeing is just highlight reel level stuff again and again and again. And if you have him locked in, then and you're confident that this is going to be the George Pickens for the next 4 or 5 years, I think that would be the best use of resources. Overreaction or not, Newbear?
A couple other names that so we don't get killed in the comments. Drake London looks like he's for real if he can get consistent quarterback play. Nico Collins the same way. But guys like DJ Moore in that system playing second fiddle room with Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith playing second fiddle. I mean, I'm just making sure we're not missing anybody. You can very reasonably make a case that not only should he be paid like DK Metcalf on Mount Rushmore, is he on the medal stand, the best wide receiver on this team? But I mean, really functionally, fundamentally, it's him, Jetta, Chase, and CeeDee, AJ Brown if he was playing somewhere else. What conversation do you want to have, and how do you want to have it? You can very comfortably put him.
He's a can't-lose player. I mean, I feel like Lamb would make a lot of these same catches that George Pickens is, majority of them, but he's going to mix in some drops, and that was a big problem for Pickens last year. It hasn't been this year. But then Lamb just is going to go down. Pickens combined so many athletic strengths that are a perfect 10 out of 10, and his awareness is so high. He's able to fight people off with those long arms and just make touchdowns out of plays that nobody else in the league would score, or very few would, including Lamb.
Well, and every single one of these dudes is a crash out waiting to happen. So for people who want to start clapping about the mercurial nature, I mean, talk to me about George Pickens and then talk to me about AJ Brown. Why is AJ Brown celebrated for it when Pickens is ridiculed for it? Well, because he's a champion, because he has a ring, because he's been paid, but now that he's doing this in an even, isn't that more petulant? Isn't that worse when you're out there trying to defend the title? So I just, every single one of these dudes thinks he's the best. Every single one of these dudes wants every chance to prove it. Almost none of them do even try any damage control at trying to hide their disgust when they are not given the ball. The only difference is adult calling the plays, adult in the huddle, real running buddy, and oh, by the way, every single thing that he can do on display.
Okay, what else do we have in the form of overreactions? Okay, the Raiders having as many yards as they did is a sign that this defense is probably still not very good. I don't think that's an overreaction. I need to see them. And Philadelphia is going to be easy to keep under 20, but they might beat you like 17-10.
Geno was 27 of 42, so 42 attempts for 238 passing yards. As much damage as Bowers did, it's 10 yards a catch, and that includes the long one to start. Lockett at 11 yards a catch. Genty out of the backfield at 4.5. Like, it's not like Mayer gashed them, for 3 for 100 and a touchdown because they were paying too much attention to Brock Bowers. Did they move the ball? Yeah, but they didn't even get close to 300 yards of total offense.
Okay, I like that. And then overreaction or not, this game shows the Cowboys are going to make a run at this thing.
Yeah, the Philly one is going to tell the tale because Philly, God bless her, they're so hard to watch. Like, it's just, they play the most brutal, ugly football on the planet, and then they win. And if you're a fan of the team, there is nothing ugly about winning. Respect. They got to go in and win this game because beating Philly opens everything up. You lose to Philly, now everyone's talking about the death spiral. They got to go at least 1-2 in these next 3. But why are we talking about it like that? The Chiefs are beatable. The Lions are beatable. If either one of those teams plays their best game, do they have your number? I can't wait to find out the answer to that question, but I'm way more interested in punching Philly in the mouth one more time, especially because Jalen Carter, if he learned anything from his incident and what Jamar Chase just went through, will be on his best behavior until he's diving. Did you see the dive he took today when he went full possum mode when he saw he was going to get the trap? Jalen Carter is one of the most interesting dudes to watch because you talk about people who can only a handful of people who can do what he can do, and he's in that group at his position and maybe one-on-one in some ways. Do you know how spatially aware? Do you know how fucking gifted you have to be to sense that and just hit the dirt and at his size with the intent that he's going, to go blow that stuff? He's a special, special dude, and I'm looking forward to being able to punch him and everyone else wearing an eagle on their hat in the mouth.
I love it. Lane Johnson's going to be out. That's something. Okay. We'll be back real soon. We'll go long form 4 times a week here on the channel. It's Dawson and Newbear. Cowboys win 33-16 in Las Vegas. Week 12 is those turds of bird from Philadelphia. And until next time, how about wow, Cowboys?